Hello.
Hello.
How is everyone doing on this beautiful day? Oh my goodness. I feel like we haven't done this in so long.
I know it's been a while.
It's been a minute, hasn't it? Oh my God. Well, how are you, Hannah?
I'm doing great. I finished reading like an hour ago, so I am ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Fresh. It is fresh, y'all. I finished this like maybe 20 minutes ago, and it's just like embedded in my head right now. And I can't,
Yeah.
like, what's so weird about rereads is you always forget how much you actually forget in rereads.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that so weird?
Yeah.
And yeah, but that's how it went for me. Okay, so we always usually start out with our ratings. I don't think our ratings are going to surprise absolutely anybody, but we might as well go into our ratings. So, Hannah, what did you rate the book?
5 stars. It's so good. I can't remember what I rated it the very first time I read it. I think I gave it 5 stars,
I think I gave it four
but
stars the
I
first time I
can't
read it.
remember.
I think the first time I ever read it, I think I gave it 4 stars, but I had just started reading. But it was a book that I didn't stop talking about, and I eventually changed it to 5 stars. And then upon reread, it was a 5 star, and now my second reread, it's still 5 stars.
Yeah. It's definitely a 5 star for me. I love it.
I loved this way more than I thought I was going to upon reread, to be honest, because I was actually
Yeah.
very nervous and skeptical about it because I've reread this book. So I've read this book twice, but I've never read it since finishing the series.
Oh.
I was scared of it not living up to what it was when I read it the first 2 times. Because the first 2 times I read it the first time, and then I reread it so I could read Akamath years later. And I just read Akamath directly after. So like I literally haven't read it,
Yeah.
and I loved it. I also listened to the graphic audiobook. Did you listen to the graphic audiobook, Hannah?
So I tried. I tried and I hated it.
I loved it. Oh no.
No, I
Okay,
hated it.
hot tea, hot tea. I did try listening alongside the audiobook while reading along. I hated that. I couldn't do it. I couldn't read alongside it because it cut out so many like certain parts, and then I would keep losing my
Yeah.
place, and it only really stuck to dialogue for the most part. But I did have to slow down the audiobook.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, the company Graphic Audio came out with a dramatization of the ACOTAR books. And it's a full cast. So each character and like even side characters have like different voices. There's sound effects throughout the whole thing. There's music
Mhm.
that plays. It's the whole shebang. It's pitched as a movie in your mind. And I just didn't like it. I had it sped up, not even that fast. I was at like 2.5. But the sound effects like didn't make sense to me. I'm like, what is that noise? Like, what is
Yeah,
happening? And then when I slowed it down, I was like, oh, it's supposed to be
yeah,
like snow crunching under her boots or something like
yeah.
that.
That's what I
So I
had
had
to
to
do
slow it down.
because I
But
usually
I
listen to audiobooks at like 2.5 times speed, and since I
yeah.
listen to it on Scrib now has double 2.5 and 3 times speed. So I
Hmm.
started it at 2.5 since it's a reread. I was like, let's just go into full throttle. And it was wild when I started listening to it. I loved it. I loved the sound effects. I loved the how dramatic it was. It was very entertaining to me, but I had to slow it down. And I couldn't listen to it and read alongside it at the same time because it was losing me.
But yeah,
But
it definitely like skips like because
yeah.
it's a dramatization, like it won't say Nesta said blah blah blah. It'll just have Nesta's voice actor saying whatever she said. So
Yeah.
I didn't like Feyre's voice actor though. And like we're
I didn't
we're
mind.
listening to her voice the whole freaking book pretty much, and I just couldn't. I listened ahead to some of the other characters. Like Nesta's I liked, but like Rhys's voice, I was like hard pass.
Okay, I will agree on that. I didn't love Reese's voice. It wasn't the way it sounded in my head for some reason.
Yeah.
But I will also say I haven't listened to like the regular audiobooks
Oh,
for
you
these.
haven't?
I haven't.
I
So
love those.
So that is probably why I loved it so much. I don't know the original audio voices at all. I remember I read this entire series physically, even A Court of Silver Flames. I haven't listened to any of the audiobooks. And I know that the audiobook for Silver Flames, I think you had me listen to like a little snippet of it. I hated it. Hated it. And so for this one, like I loved the graphic audio, but the graphic audio I feel like is just it's an audible experience. Like it's not like a reading experience almost like it's meant for you to listen to and solely listen to, and I think that's why I loved it so much. I hated Tamlin's voice, I will say that, but I think it's just Tamlin.
I couldn't get behind like the voice actors and some of like the way that they said things. I was like, that is so freaking cheesy. Like I just could not.
I really agree with
sound
that.
effects, like sometimes the sound effects, I was just like eye rolling, and I only got like 5 chapters in, and I was like, I'm not doing this. Like,
No,
I'm not doing it. And I do love the original audiobooks that are narrated by Jennifer Ikeda. I love them. So
isn't she the same narrator as is it Throne of Glass?
No, so Elizabeth Evans does Throne of Glass and the Crescent City series. So Jennifer Ikeda just does the ACOTAR series. She does the original trilogy plus the novella, Court of Frost and Starlight. And then there's a completely different narrator for Silver Flames, and that was not good.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all. I will say that I think when we do Akamath, I'll probably listen to the regular one because Akamath I want to annotate.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read alongside.
So excited. Also, like, fair warning to the people who are watching this at all. Like, Christina and I have read the whole series already, so you're not getting like fresh reactions. We're definitely keeping it spoiler free for the rest of the series. We're talking spoilers today about this book, but we're keeping it spoiler free. But just so you know,
yes,
we've read it before.
We've read, everything from here on out. We've both read, and possibly reread already. I think this is the only ACOTAR book I've ever reread prior to this read along. So, but Crescent City I've already read 3 times. Because I love that book so much. But anyway, let's get into ACOTAR. Well, let's get into comments. I need to know what everybody's rating is, by the way.
Yeah, let us know what your rating is.
I need to know everybody's rating. And also, I think we all know that Hannah and I are Sarah J. Maas stans, but we understand if your ratings are not up to par with our ratings. That is okay. Hi, beautiful friend. She's popping in to say hello.
Rachel.
Hi. You're in Europe. Must be freaking nice. We'll be rewatching this later. Love y'all so much. We love you even more. Hope the reread was a hit. It was fun.
Yeah. It was really I haven't reread this one as much. So I mean, this was my 6th time reading it, so it's like what is much, but it's my least favorite in the series.
Same.
But like that doesn't mean that it's bad. Like it's so good and it sets up the series so well. I just love it.
Yeah, same. It's my it's definitely my least favorite, but it's still a 5-star.
Yeah.
Like it just sets everything up.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I did not realize how much foreshadowing is in this book. I honestly, I am debating on rereading it, like maybe even physically, just to annotate all the foreshadowing that's in this book. Because it's really, I'm obviously not going to say any of the foreshadowing, but I didn't realize how much you truly do get in ACOTAR.
There's a lot.
I can't even imagine how it is when I reread Throne of Glass because, oh my god. Oh my god.
Sarah J. Maas is the queen of foreshadowing. I actually ran out of the color tab. You can't really see that. I used dark green as my foreshadowing color, and I ran out of that color, so I had to put tabs at the top of the book. So when I bought another set of those tabs, so when they come in, I could go back and tab it because I hadn't used foreshadowing like tabs until this read. Yeah,
I'm very, very excited to reread this whole series because I have started a reread of Akamath. I got like halfway through, but I didn't finish it. But I've never reread Akawar or Akafas. But
I'm so excited to read all of these.
So excited. So excited. I previewed the graphic novel and could not with it. It was too much for me. Yeah, I saw that. A
Yeah.
lot of people said the same thing.
Yeah. I like the
Um,
original one, but teach
Hi,
their own.
Lachlan.
Hi,
I'm
Lachlan.
going to give the original a try, probably for Akamath, but I'm also debating on just reading Akamath physically because of how much I loved it physically, like
It's
loved it.
so
I read
good.
the entire series physically.
Yeah.
So like I'm debating on just reading it physically. It'll take me longer, but
Yeah. It's easier, I feel like, to annotate when
yeah, and
you're
at my own
physically
pace.
reading it.
Now here's the thing. Both times I read ACOTAR, I read it in a day. And then I remember when I reread ACOTAR, I I reread ACOTAR on like a Friday, and then I was going to my boyfriend's house at the time when we weren't living together to read. I brought Akamath with me, and I read Akamath at his house, like at his apartment, in like a day or two. I ignored him the entire time I was there, just reading Akamath, and I was like, okay, well, I reread it when I read it the first time, I finished it in like a day, and it's massive. But like upon reread, I want to enjoy it,
Yeah.
so I think I'll probably like start a reread physically, and then if it's like coming closer to the day and I'm still not done, then I'll probably like pick up the audio. But
Yeah.
I think I'm actually gonna try doing it physically. I think I'm gonna try it. I really am.
I'm so excited.
Okay, we might do some reading sprints for Akamath if I think we might do some like Akamath themed reading sprints the way we did
It's
like
been a hot minute since we've done the read along reading sprints, so
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
down.
I'm so down for Akamath, our favorite book of all time, of course. I mean, is that not on brand for us? Because I mean, come on. I originally gave it a 4, but after Akamath changed it to a 5. Love Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, so do we.
I wish I knew because I read this when it came out. Like I hadn't Akamath hadn't even released yet.
Me
And
too.
so I wish that because that was 2015. So that was friggin' 7 years ago. So
Yeah.
I wish that I could remember my rating of it. Because I remember reading it after I read Throne of Glass and thinking to myself, like, I don't like this as much as Throne of Glass. I still loved it, but I didn't like it as much as Throne of Glass. And then Aftermath came out and changed my life.
Yeah, we know. Also, I did not realize how many copies of this series I have. Because I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 copies of the ACOTAR series.
Yeah, I have a lot.
Like well, not every book. ACOTAR I have 4 copies because of the special edition. Yeah, like I did not realize how many editions I have, and I'm going to order more. Just kind of wild.
Yeah,
Shelves are not
it's hard
prepared.
to say no.
And my shelves are just not prepared because like I just don't have the room for more. But I'm gonna order more. I don't care anymore. I like both. I did not listen. I think she's talking about the audiobooks.
Yeah, I think she is too.
I know she really loved the graphic audio. I loved the graphic audio, to be honest. I did. But I wouldn't read it alongside. I would just like if you're gonna do the graphic audio, I think it's fun, but not for everyone.
Yeah, and I don't know that I would listen to it that way the very first time you're reading it either.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I think it's more fun as a reread experience,
Yeah.
not as like an original read. Because I mean, technically, you're not really getting the full story anyway. Because a bunch of it is technically
It's
like cropped
cut
out because
out,
it's
yeah.
dialogue.
Well, and even like sentences that it's like I don't know why that sentence was cut out because it didn't
Yeah,
like
I
there were sentences that they just didn't say because they were like
yeah.
moving on. I was like,
They skip like sometimes they skip like paragraphs that
yeah,
like discussing like the scene, and I'm like, why'd you skip that? That might be
right.
important. I mean, it wasn't, but at the same time, like you just like you can't
So
just
you're
skip
like,
over a
yeah,
whole
you're missing out
paragraph.
on
Yeah, like I understand like skipping like the Nesta said, Tamlin said, like that I
right.
understand, but like and like even skipping it with like the way that they say it, okay, fine. But like sometimes they skipped like actual full on like characteristics and stuff like in
Yeah,
paragraphs. But it was a little much, but I wouldn't have noticed if I wasn't reading alongside it though.
yeah.
So 4 stars, still love Throne of Glass better. Now listen.
Okay, let's if you're in the comments right now, leave the rose emoji if this is your first time reading the series and you've only read Akatar. Because I'm pretty sure Kim said this was her first time reading ACOTAR. So I'm just curious because obviously Christina and I have read the whole series. So like we know everything.
Yeah, we know
But
everything.
I'm just curious. I'm curious for those of you that haven't, and this is your like first, dipping your toes into the ACOTAR world.
And now here's my thing. Upon reread, ooh, this is difficult. I don't know if I loved Throne of Glass more than I like ACOTAR. I will say that. Throne of Glass, when I read Throne of Glass, I was obsessed the entire time. ACOTAR, upon reread, I will say I loved Throne of Glass more. I don't know what series I like more. Don't even ask me that. I can't answer that. I can't answer that. Because I love all of them. I love all of them.
Yeah, Throne of Glass is definitely my favorite series, but we know what my favorite book is. So
yeah. Because like my thing is, I don't want to say that Crescent City is my favorite series because it's not completed yet.
Right.
But at the same time, I have read Crescent City more than I've read any other book.
Yeah.
Mind you, I've read Crescent City 3 times in the past year. Like I read Crescent City for the first time in December of 2021. And then again in February. And then again in like I think it was May or April or whenever the heck it was when I reread it again. And it's like I'm gonna reread it again before the end of the year. So I'm gonna be reading 4 times within the same year.
I love it.
And then I've already reread also Sky and Breath. So I've read Sky and Breath already twice this year. So it's like I love those books, but they're also just so different. Anyway, this is ACOTAR. I don't know why the heck we're talking about everything else because we can never stay on track. Love how neither of you thought twice about the leg emoji. We're just like, yeah, that's completely normal because it's you. It's
It's like Lachlan. Yep. Hi, leg.
I didn't even realize there was a leg emoji, to be honest. I just saw the hi.
Oh, yeah. No, I saw that and just like giggled to myself.
This was like, okay.
There she is.
I gave this 4.5, but I'm loving my rereads. Yeah. Yes. I mean, honestly, this is going to be such a fun series to reread. And I'm very excited for the reread. I think it's going to be so fun. They're your emotional support for copies of the same series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They make me happy.
I like looking at them. I like admiring them. Like my special edition, my boyfriend was like, "You're never going to read this?" I was like, probably not.
It's just fun to have and fun to look at. It's a piece of a collection.
I like to look at it. Like sometimes I just grab it and I look at it because it's beautiful. Will I ever read it? I don't know. Probably not. Because like I also have a million copies of it and I'm going to own more because I'm going to get even more dust jackets. So it's like I have a bunch of actual copies to read and I'm annotating my original series, not my newly bought series.
Mm-hmm.
So I read it physically the first time and then on reread, I just listened to the audiobooks, which I really liked, but I wasn't reading along physically. Yeah, same. When I just listened to the audio, I loved it. Loved it, like on my car rides, like during when I was like cleaning, because mind you, I finished this book like 20 minutes before the last show. So I was like cleaning my apartment and like doing certain stuff, and I was just listening to it, and it's a fantastic audible experience. But I think it's a great way to reread the story as a different type of experience if you guys want to try it. That's my advice. Which emoji?
The rose. If this is the first time that you've read it and you haven't read the rest of the series, or if you just have read this but haven't read the rest.
Yeah. Throne of Glass.
Yeah, I love Throne of Glass.
Thing is that Throne of Glass, I can see. Yeah. Dang it.
When we finish this read along too, like the whole thing, we've read every Sarah J. Maas book published. We're gonna rank them. We're gonna give our rankings. We're doing that. So we got to think on it because I've tried. It's hard.
I don't think that's possible.
It took me like 2 hours to come up with the list that I have, I feel like. And I don't even know if it's right because I'm like, those books could switch around. And it's like, towards the bottom of the list. I'm like, yeah, but I love that book. How could it be the bottom of the list?
Oh my God, Hannah, that might cause some like.
I know. We're doing it. I'm making you do it.
Hannah and I are gonna be like, we're probably gonna stream together, and you're just gonna have us go like this the
We're
whole
just
time.
gonna
Do this. Oh no. It was my reread of ACOTAR, but I haven't read ACOMAF or ACOWAR. Oh, buckle up, sweetie.
I'm so
Buckle up.
excited.
It gets so much better.
I
It
love
gets
it.
Prison City is my favorite series, and my favorite book is Akasif. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my thing is that I love Akasif and I love ACOMAF, but I love them the exact same. So upon reread, I'll see which one I love more. But Akasif was like everything I want and more in a book, and I loved it way more than I expected to. Because like when I heard that we were getting a book from Nesta's point of view, I didn't know how I felt about it because I didn't love Nesta's character, but I did enjoy it so much. It is my first time reading the series, but I'm glad I gave it a second chance. Yeah, it gets so much better.
I'm glad you did too. I'm so excited. For those of you that haven't read A Court of Mist and Fury,
I can't wait till we reread ACOMAF and everyone's like, okay. Like, I can't wait.
That live show is gonna be so long. I'm never gonna shut
so
up.
long. It's gonna be so long. We're gonna be on here for like 3 hours for ACOMAF, y'all. Like ACOMAF is gonna be a long live show, so get ready for that one because that's gonna be fun. I gave it 4 stars. 4 stars. Oh my god, I gave it 5 stars. Love these books so much, y'all. I am not okay. I love these books so much too. This is like this has always been my favorite series. So when I tell everyone what my favorite series is, this is what I say. Because I just like 2 of the books are my favorite books of all time. So like that's like what's always in my head. But gosh. First time reading the ACOTAR series, currently on page 532 of Wings and Ruin. Yeah. It gets so Wings and Ruin is wild. I'm excited to reread that one too. Can't wait for us to talk about ACOMAF. Me too. I can't wait. We've been like raving this book up for like 21 minutes. Haven't even talked about
I know, we haven't even talked about
we haven't even like actually discussed the book. Just discussed
the live show, and we're like, all right, page 1.
Yes, like this is gonna be a long show, y'all. Buckle up. I am excited. I'm excited. So where should we start? Because I don't.
Okay, let's start at the beginning.
Yes, of course.
So we start with this snowy, wintry scene, right? It really sets the stage. Feyre's out hunting because, you know, she's got to hunt to survive to keep her family alive. And she sees a deer, but that is also being stalked by a wolf. And so she's like, crap, I have to kill this wolf because I don't want it to kill me. And they're so close to this like wall that it could possibly be a fairy. And she's like, well, I better kill it before it kills me. Just the way of the world. She kills it and sets the whole thing in motion. Right?
I loved it.
Kills the wolf, which she didn't know if it was a fairy or not, but
she had a hunch.
Yeah, she's like, either way, I don't care. Like, even if I did know.
Yeah.
And
she's like, it's dying either way. So
yeah. So then we end up, you know, she does her thing with the, you know, with the deer and with the pelts of the animals, and a freaking beast comes and knocks down her door and is like screaming at her that she broke this treaty because she killed this fairy, and says, I can kill you, or you can come with me into the fairylands and live out the rest of your days there. And so we get this ultimatum here, which of course she chooses life and gets whisked away to this fairyland. So very much the Beauty and the Beast retelling, right? The beast came and took her away from her family, is kind of holding her captive, in a way, right? Like, this is your choice. You can come here or you can die. And then once they get there, he's like, you can go wherever you want. I really don't care. And she's like, well, this world is pretty lethal to humans, so I guess I'll stay here. And then, of course, we find out that beast is a fairy, like a man, right? He can shapeshift, and it is Tamlin. And I'm just, you know, what are our thoughts on Tamlin? What do the people want to say here? Because I have some thoughts on Tamlin. I will keep them close to my chest for right now, I suppose. We also meet. Go ahead, Christina.
No, I'm sorry. I need to know what people's thoughts are on Tamlin because I have thoughts.
I will say he's not my fave. Although he's not I don't hate him in this one. Don't hate him. So
okay.
Not my fave, but
literally me. So I feel the exact same way. He's not my fave. Like I don't necessarily really care for him, but I don't hate him.
Yeah.
Like, like I don't like kind of like Kale.
Yeah.
Right. I don't mind him, but like I don't want him to die. You know? He knows both.
Yeah. Yeah, so we also we'll move on from that topic. Okay, yeah, Kim.
Yeah, please. Really didn't like her family. She's the baby and she's responsible for the welfare of them all. Same.
Yeah, she's the youngest.
I still agree with this till this day. Just because I am the older sister. So like in my own personal point of view, I could never allow my sister to just go out by herself knowing that I am older.
We'll jump ahead a little bit in this book. So obviously Nesta is the eldest, and then we have middle child Elaine, and then we have Feyre. And their mom has died. Their dad is like can't really move around a lot. He had his legs kind of shattered by these debtors. They live in this hovel. They used to be really rich, and now they've lost all their fortune, and they're just barely scraping by thanks to Feyre's hunting. But we do see, so at the very beginning, her family is just kind of like useless to her. Like it's as if it's Feyre's responsibility to keep the family going. Because like without her, like they would die. Like literally they would not survive.
To read though. Because like even when she had the deer and then she had the pelts from the wolf and she was going to go sell them, she knew that Nesta and Elaine were gonna want money to like get them stuff. And I'm like, sweetie, food is getting them stuff. Feeding them and putting a roof over their head is getting them stuff. So like that, I remember reading that every single time I read it. I'm like, why?
So
like, we not realize that they're like poor.
Yeah. We see later in the book like why as Nesta as the eldest like wasn't the one to go out and learn to hunt. Because Feyre was so young when they lost their fortune, she hadn't been like molded into this like, rich debutante basically.
Feyre was young enough to adapt.
Yeah, and Nesta really wanted their father to do something, to finally fight for their family, and she was willing to starve in order to force his hand there. And like she's so stubborn that she was like, I'm not doing that. And so Feyre was like, well, then I will because I don't want to starve. And Nesta was so stubborn that she would have starved to prove a point.
Yeah.
So we do get that. Like, I'm not saying that that's right, but you understand a little bit. At least, like, you see the reason behind, like, why. And then, of course, Elaine is the middle child, so she's older than Feyre, and she's so timid and gentle that like I could not picture Elaine hunting and killing a creature. Like you just can't. Like she is throughout the whole book, she is just described as like this, you know what I'm saying? Like just very gentle, very feminine, very like sweet, innocent kind of person.
Sensitive, very,
and she wouldn't have the grit to do it.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I will say that I remember, this is like something I vividly remember from the first time I read it. For some reason, even knowing that Feyre was the baby, reading Elaine, like reading everything about Elaine, made me think that Elaine was the youngest.
Right.
Because of like how Feyre sees Elaine also, and like the way that Feyre describes Elaine and the way she speaks to Elaine and
They
everything.
all
Like,
have to take care of Elaine because she's
yeah,
this sweet, innocent little thing. Yeah.
it's as if Elaine is the youngest, but you tend to forget that Elaine was also at like that type of age where she was used to a certain lifestyle, but then it kind of just like stopped. And it's hard, I guess, for her to really like counteract what was to what is. And she is just not like the kind of person to go out and hunt the way Feyre is. Because Elaine, as much as I like her, she is just she's a sensitive little thing.
Yeah.
She's definitely sensitive. Tamlin is a bit too controlling. I highly agree with this statement.
Yeah, he's a bit alpha.
A bit.
Just a
Very
bit.
much. Just yeah, Tamlin is very controlling, in my opinion. There are things about Tamlin that tend to slightly irritate my soul.
Yeah, they were like, he's tricky to talk about. He's tricky
He
to
is.
talk about. Because there are some moments where I'm like, I understand why Feyre fell in love with him, but for the most part,
Why?
I don't like him. I'll just say it. I don't like Tamlin.
Okay. And you know what? Upon reread, especially in this reread, like I saw a lot more of Tamlin's toxicity, like bad toxicity. I'm not even talking about like good toxicity. Like this is just bad, toxic, everything, everywhere, at all times possible. And it's like Tamlin is just, it's so hard to describe him also because it's like, it's so hard to talk about him. Oh my
It's hard
god.
to talk about him. I think we should maybe just move on from
Yeah,
him.
it's so hard.
Yeah.
To not compare Kale to Tamlin. Kale
Well,
is a
we
baby.
did, so.
I
I will say, I like Kale better.
was gonna say the same thing.
No spoilers for the Throne of Glass series in case you're coming into this read along just for this series, but he's a character in that series if you're like, who the fuck is Kale?
Yeah. What I have experienced so far, I have enjoyed him and how he's cared for her versus how her family treated her. Yeah, I agree. I can agree with that statement. I remember the first time I read this, I really enjoyed Tamlin's character, like a lot. I did like certain things that he did do for her, and that I can definitely get behind.
There are some sweet moments.
Yeah, he has some nice moments, definitely.
Yeah, he's a conflicting character, I feel like.
Yeah. They treated her more like a servant and not as a sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just kind of took advantage of her. Like, once they realized that she would
was capable.
do all these things.
Yeah. And I will say that the one thing too about Feyre that we also get, I think in the beginning, when she is just brought to the spring court, she is very worried. Like I think it's like day 7 or 8, and she's like, the deer's only gonna last for like 2 more days. And like she's like, she can't stop worrying about her family, and she wouldn't eat either. Like she didn't want to eat because she just thought the freaking food was poisonous.
Yeah.
And she was just like, yeah, no. And the fact that she was technically held prisoner, I guess, in a sense.
Right. She's kind of, I mean, she is kind of held captive. She's
she is.
forced between a rock and a hard place. Like, Tamlin could kill her because of this treaty, or she could live out her days in these lands. But if she doesn't stay at the spring court, like, manor with him, and she leaves, like, there's so many creatures and so many things that are so deadly to humans that, like, she wouldn't survive on her own anyways. So she's really kind of forced to, but eventually like acclimates and grows to love the spring court and think of it as home. So
definitely.
Yeah,
this will never give in. She will never.
No. Strong-willed.
Yeah. I don't think you can blame the children when truly the father should be the one taking care of them. I highly agree.
Yeah.
I think he should have stepped up. I understand that the father also had like he sustained a very big injury. But there are other ways that he could have made money and gotten food.
Yeah.
You just figure them out. And I feel like
it's also though, like, it's not just this is how they've always been, and Feyre
Yeah.
has picked up. Like, they all were very rich, very coddled.
Mhm.
They had servants. They had a huge thing. Everything was taken care of. They had never had money issues. They never had to worry about
Mhm.
food or anything. And they were all thrust into this situation. And so Feyre obviously was the one that took the reins and adapted to it. And all of them were still kind of like just waiting for their wealth to come back. Like, they wanted to go back to that place.
I get that, but at the same time, I feel that as a father, you're still the father.
Yeah.
Like, you're still the father.
Especially when it's like your youngest.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I understand having a disability to the fact that you can't go physically out and hunt, but you can go with her. You can go
Right.
accompany her. You can go help her skin the animal or bring the animal. Some shape, way, or form, you're able to assist your youngest, not just letting her go out by herself.
Yeah.
I think that's also the frustrating part. Like, because he knew that Pharaoh was able to do it, he just kind of said, okay, cool. Like, that's also a little frustrating, but yes, Kimmy, I felt the same way. More blame was placed on the sisters than the dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel that
I am I frozen
your
or is she
sister,
frozen?
and I think Hannah froze.
Am I frozen still?
Did Hannah freeze or did I freeze?
You
Oh,
froze for me. Am I back?
yes, you're back.
Okay.
Because you froze for me.
Yeah, you froze for me. So
Okay.
I was like, oh, which one of us needs to keep
I was like,
talking?
did Hannah freeze or did I freeze? 'Cause I don't know who froze. Somebody froze. But yeah, but I do think that because it's told from Farah's point of view, I think because Feyre is one of the sisters, I mean, at least for me, at least I can see where that comes from because of me and my sister. Like, yes, I feel like, yeah, most of the blame is put on the sisters more than the dad.
Right.
It's
I
just
think
because
people look at it like a hierarchy. Like, if the parent can't do it, then it should be the eldest and then
yes,
the next eldest. And the fact
yes.
that it was the youngest, the baby of the family that is taking care of all of
Mhm,
them, that people are like,
yeah.
what the
And
hell?
also coming from Feyre, she also saw the fact that her dad couldn't. Like in her head, her dad could not because he
Yeah.
had the disadvantage of the injury that he did have. So like in Feyre's head, it wasn't that her dad wouldn't, it's that he just couldn't. So knowing that she had two sisters that were perfectly healthy and capable of doing such things, even though technically in a certain sense, that's just I think that's what her point of view was. Like you two have capable legs and capable, healthy, visible bodies. You can come with me and help me also, but they just didn't.
Yeah.
It's because Elaine was a beauty. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also because like Elaine's mother also acknowledged that she was the beauty. And I think that's also another thing because like Nesta had a very close connection to her mother. And
Mhm.
when their mother dies, Nesta also had to not only lose her entire lifestyle, but she also lost a mother,
Mhm.
which her mother
And she
coddled her.
blames the father for that. Like,
Yes.
she's like, he
Yes.
was still rich. He could have taken a ship to
Mhm.
anywhere in the world and found a cure for her and didn't. And so, like,
Yeah.
she holds that resentment towards him.
Nesta has a lot of hate toward her father.
Yeah.
And her mother is one of like the key points of it. So like you have to also remember that their mother also had a big thing to do with it because I mean also the mother told Feyre, promise me you'll take care of them. And
Yeah.
Feyre held that promise with her. Like she did well in that promise, and that's all she could always ever think of. And it's almost like her mom knew that it was going to be her to do it anyway. But yeah.
Yeah.
Feyre also revealed some memories that her mother was also very emotionally cold and withdrawn towards all of them and only seemed to show kinder emotions to the father.
Yeah.
Yeah, her mother also is extremely similar to Nesta's personality. I feel
Mhm.
like you kind of get a lot of Nesta from her mom. I like the
Yeah.
characteristics are very much the same.
I don't know, I think it's in this book, but it's not a spoiler, but I think it's in this book where Feyre describes Nesta as, she's my mother's creature.
Yeah. I think
So
it's this book.
I think it's in this book.
Yeah. So everyone doted on her.
Yeah.
Elaine, yeah.
Elaine,
Yeah.
because she was the beauty.
Mhm. Well, he was a warrior type character who was forced into this ruling role. Is this about?
I think it's about Tamlin. I mean, he was raised as a High Lord's son. Like, we find that out eventually that he's the High Lord, but because he had brothers, I think he was just thinking like, oh, I'll just be a warrior and I don't have to worry about it. But
yeah.
Anyways, we'll move on from Tamlin.
Yeah. It was Tamlin's a character.
He is.
Yes, it is the Beauty and the Beast complex, definitely. Christina, you froze. Okay, so it was me. Okay. I'm just happy that at least it was recovered fast. Because for me, Hannah froze, which was weird. Because like usually
it's me.
No, usually I can see myself when I freeze. Like I can usually see like the circle on my end.
Yeah.
And I didn't. So like that was strange. It was heartbreaking when she was telling Tamlin that her family didn't fight for her.
Yeah, that was sad to hear Feyre be like, I don't know, just for her opening up and saying like, my family never really fought for me, basically.
Yeah, because like I mean, also you have to also like, I remember this scene, the way that she was describing kind of everything that she was kind of going through, and she kind of just felt like she was forced into a position that she had no control over. And it's hard to read about it when a lot of it is true. I mean, she really didn't feel loved by her sisters either. She just felt, I mean, not by her sisters, more I guess by like Nesta. She almost felt like Nesta resented her for a certain thing.
And her mom especially, like the mother, she just, Feyre alludes to how she was like kind of pushed aside during parties and stuff, and her mother never really cared for her and all that.
Nesta was not healthy, but she didn't know that. And Feyre does say that there's so much to Nesta that she doesn't show or understand. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big part, because I feel like the way that Feyre views things sometimes is just like one person's point of view, but she can see that that there's more to Nesta, I guess, than
because she defends Nesta.
Yeah, she does.
She defends Nesta. She does. Like she's like, yeah, we all know that she's cold and she doesn't do this or that, but there's more to her.
Yeah.
And she knows that there's more to her. It's just that Nesta doesn't necessarily show it. But in this comment right here, and Nesta always took care of Eve. Yeah. Nesta really does look after Elaine, and you see that.
Yeah.
Which definitely shows that she does have some heartwarming qualities about her. It's just hard.
And that she does care about people. She's not so cold-hearted. Like, she actually does care about people. She's just more guarded about it.
Yeah. And I think also she just has a very big resentment toward her father, which I think is just, it's very prominent in the story toward character's character. So I think that's kind of what you see a lot toward Nesta.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially when it's coming from Feyre's point of view. So that's another thing that I have to like remember. Like, this is Feyre's point of view.
Right. So we get Feyre now is in the Spring Court. We meet Lucien, who is like Tamlin's right-hand guy. They're both wearing masquerade masks, and Feyre's like, must just be some kind of fairy style or something that I don't understand. And then we learn a little bit about the Blight. So obviously now that we've finished the book, we know what that is and what that is alluding to, but Feyre doesn't at the time. She just thinks that it's some kind of sickness that's infecting the land. It's affecting magic and how it's used, and she's worried about it coming to the human lands and messing things up. So she's got that like kind of anxiety about this blight. And then we get the scene where Feyre wants to go find answers and decides to catch a surreal, which is a very rare, very hard to catch fairy who has like this like knowledge that you wouldn't believe, right? And there's this line on page 142. So she catches it, right? She catches it. She asks it the questions that she wanted to, and then that's when she finds out that Tamlin is a High Lord. And Tamlin has this line where he says, you actually snared the Surreal, a human girl. And then Feyre goes, is it supposed to be hard? And then that just reminds me of Legally Blonde, where she's like,
Oh my God,
got
yes.
into Harvard Law? Like, what? Like, it's hard?
Is this hard? Oh my God, I never even put that together.
What? Like, it's hard? I think that's so funny
That's
because, like,
great.
the fact that Tamlin is
Completely.
like, you caught one. You, a human girl, caught the Surreal. And she was like, yeah, was that supposed to be hard? Like, because it wasn't.
It's like when Lucian was like, a human girl killed the Fae. You're telling me that she killed the Fae.
Right. Took down
with her own hands.
Yep. And we have right during that, right? We have when she catches the Surreal, right in the middle of them speaking, there's another fairy type creature that attacks called the Naga. And they're just like ready to murder her and murder the Surreal. So she has to run. Tamlin comes to her aid there. They manage to vanquish them. But it's just the fact that like she talks about frequently about how she's like a mouse among wolves.
Yep.
Or like this fragile human among these like ethereal fae. And yet she killed a fae wolf in wolf form. She snared the Surreal, which is like next to impossible. She killed 2 of the Naga, not just 1, 2. And like just her like resiliency, it just makes me laugh that she ever thought that she was like weak, even as a human, even as like the most breakable freaking thing. She still like thrives. She's amazing.
I love how like just it's not naive, it's more like humble. Like she is just so humble to the fact that she's really just like blind to how amazing she is at certain aspects.
Yeah.
I think it's just because of once again her upbringing. Like I think she was just so humbled by her upbringing that she was just like, am I not supposed to be doing these things? Like, is this not normal? I don't understand.
Right.
But I will say the Naga was one of the things I forgot. When it happened, I was like, whoa, I forgot about this part. But yeah, she was just Feyre was kind of a badass, not gonna lie.
She is like, and she's just like so crafty. Like she's just so good.
She just I love Feyre. I really do.
Me too. I know some people like had issues with this series because they don't like Feyre, and I just don't understand that. I love Feyre.
Yeah. I love her. Absolutely love her.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, they love each other no matter how they have reacted to each other. Yeah, I agree.
They still all care about each other. Yeah.
And I think Feyre is a reminder of what she can't be, and Nesta will always be who she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. True. OMG, the Surreal. Yeah.
The Surreal.
Agree with this. They are very creepy.
I also love the part with the Surreal. So Lucian's the one that's like, here's how you catch it. You gotta have a chicken and set a snare and whatever. And then so she does that, and Alice, her like helper, Feyre's helper there with the bird mask, is like, don't ever listen to that fool Lucian again. You come to me next time you want to catch a Surreal. Like, all I wanted was a warm cloak. Like, I just love that. It was so funny.
I love them.
Yeah.
Question, does she have Fae blood?
Feyre? No, not at the beginning of it. She's pure human, and then obviously with the ending.
Full human. Yes, at the ending is things change, but we'll get into the ending because the ending is my favorite part about the entire book.
I
know. But no, she does not have Fae blood in the beginning of the book. She is pure human, all human, everything, every day.
Yeah.
Just cute little fragile human, which is why it's so unbelievable that she's able to do these certain things.
Right. It's also so much more impressive.
Yeah, because she's not like other girls. So it's impressive. It is. It's impressive when you think about it. Like, these are superior beings, and this fragile human is just doing a badass job of doing everything. So I love Feyre too. I love Feyre. I really do. I love Feyre. And I love these books. I can't wait to get into Akamath, y'all. Look, I know that we're talking about this book, and I love this book so much, but I cannot wait to talk about Akamath. I'm so excited for it.
Let's stay focused.
I know, it's just so hard to.
Okay, so we get this scene where this fairy gets brought in with his wings ripped
Yes.
off his body. And I feel like that is a real turning point for Feyre. One, she finds out a little bit more information because the fairy is like crying and screaming, "She took my wings, she took my wings." And so Pharaoh's like, "Who's she?" But so she gets a little bit more information from that, but it's also like a turning point where she realizes like she does care about like Tamlin and Lucian. Like she doesn't hate fairies as much as she thought she did. She holds that fairy's hand, she strokes his hair like in his dying moments. Um and a little while afterwards, and she says like the line to Tamlin where she's like, because I wouldn't want to be alone, I would want somebody to stay by my side, as I leave this world and whatever. And I just feel like that's a real turning moment for her because up to that point, she's like, I don't trust any
Yeah.
of these people. I don't like them. I don't want to spend time with them. Like, I'm
Interesting.
going to do what I have to survive. And that moment is where she starts to kind of get a little bit more tender towards Tamlin and Lucian and just Faye in general.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that scene is
That
sad.
scene, yeah, that scene, when it happened, it got me, and like one, I forgot that the scene even happened. So when it was happening, I was like, whoa. And then it like tore at my heartstrings because then I remember reading it even last time and I was like, oh my God. And then of
It's,
course you're told it by Feyre's point of view. So then you like see Feyre realizing it at the same time, which is
yeah.
very
It's also like the first moment where you realize like something is going on
yes.
in Prithian. Like
Mhm.
there is someone evil doing these things. Like there's something going on here versus like her just kind of acclimating to the Fey world.
Mhm.
This moment is the one where you're like, shit, something is going on that we don't know about yet. But there's something. There's something.
This comment, it almost humanizes them to her.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. She definitely empathizes with them and feels like a sympathy
Mhm.
because I think she hears screaming and it wakes her up and she like goes down to see what's going
Yeah.
on. And like she just reacts in that
Mhm.
moment. She doesn't like think like, oh, should I care about this fairy at all? She just instantly is like, oh my God, this person is going through something like
Yeah.
terrible. And I'm going to do what I can to help them.
God. So that was a difficult scene. Very difficult scene.
Yeah.
Only because of how things were being talked about throughout the book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's
No, she's human.
fully human up until the end.
Yeah, no. I'm going to take a nap. I'll continue watching later.
Bye,
Love
Cammy.
love you too.
Well, hope you feel better too.
Oh, wow, I was gonna say the same thing. I
Good.
hope you feel better.
Yeah.
Yes, it was
Yeah,
horrible.
that scene was brutal.
How she was doing that fairy scene makes me wonder how anyone can hate her.
Yeah, I don't understand the
I
Feyre
don't.
hate.
I personally can't understand it. I love Feyre.
I love her.
I can see where she can get annoying,
I
but
can't. I don't
it's
see that at
not
all.
like I don't. I can see where people can find her annoying, but not throughout the entire story, nor like snippets. I can see okay, maybe, but like the entire time, you just found her annoying and irritating to read. I can't personally. I don't see
Yeah.
that.
I don't see it at all. I don't think she's annoying at all. Like, I don't see it.
I liked her a lot.
Yeah. So after that scene with the fairy, we get this sweet scene where Tamlin takes Feyre to this glen that has a pool of starlight, and it's like the most beautiful place that she's ever seen. And that is like, again, one of those shifting points where she's like, I'm starting to like this guy. Like, I think he asked for a kiss or something there, and she's like, "Okay, tell me, like, as a trade or something for
Mhm.
information." And he like tells her something. He's like, "What about that kiss?" And she like kisses the back of his hand or something. But like that, she's at that point where she's like, "I'm developing
She's very
feelings for this
jealous. Yeah.
guy." Yeah. And then we get Mai, which is a spring holiday that Feyre is not invited to. She is sequestered to her room and not allowed to attend because of like this ritual that Tamlin has to perform. And Feyre's like, I don't care, and goes anyways. And is approached by these three like low life fae who are like, "Ooh, a human girl, like how nice, we're gonna use you up and then murder you." Like they're gross. And she gets rescued from that situation by
Yes.
a mysterious, tall, dark, and handsome man who we later find out is Rhysand, who is Amarantha's like lackey, basically.
Yeah.
Like he's her like right hand man, basically.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was gonna say, right hand man, yeah.
yeah, so he is working with Amarantha. So yeah, so we meet Rhysand there. We don't know that it's him. Basically, you good?
Sorry, there's a fly.
We don't know that it's him. We just meet him and he kind of rescues her, scares off those fae, and is like, "You need to stay out of trouble." And then they part ways, and that's that. And we don't know that it's him until he comes back later in the book. Um, Another like separate celebration, festival, holiday, something, whatever. But Feyre drinks fairy wine.
Yes.
And that scene to me is like one of my favorite scenes in the book. It's
Yes.
on page 224.
It's honestly one of like the scenes that I just can't stop smiling the entire time.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I love that scene. That scene brings me joy. Okay.
yeah. So Lucian is like, "Don't drink that wine," and she's like, "Don't tell me what to do," and just chugs the whole glass.
The one thing about Farrah, if you're gonna tell her not to do something, she's going to do it. Like, but not only is she going to do it, she's going to do it times 10.
Yeah, so that she chugs the contents of the glass, and he goes, "Human fool," and she just like immediately is like drunk basically on this fairy wine, and she's like, "I'm gonna paint you," and giggles. And Lucian says, "Cauldron foil and fry me." Like, oh my god. And then he's like trying to keep track of her. Like, if you've ever had a friend who's like way drunker than you, or like you're the sober friend in charge of them, it's like wrangling a toddler. Like,
Literally.
they just are going off and having the best time. And that is literally Lucian with Feyre. He's like, "Damn it, Feyre!" He's running after her,
So funny.
trying to keep her out of trouble.
So funny.
So funny. He's like, "Feyre, stop." And she goes, "You stop. Stop being so serious."
It's literally like I can picture the scene
So
in my head.
cute.
Like, I can picture it in my head. It's just so funny.
It's so
Because
funny.
it's so relatable. Like, it's so relatable.
And she's like, like weaving through all these people, and Lucian's like, "God damn it, I have to go after this friggin' drunk human girl."
No, mind you, right?
He's
Lucian
just
is
like,
using her like
yeah.
a child. And like he is pure fae. And she is human. And she is driving him wild. And he can't even keep up with
And he goes, he goes, so she's like running around and she's dancing to the music, just having the time of her life.
Oh, it's so
He
funny.
ends up like by Tamlin, and Lucian's like panting because he's running after her, and he's like, "I'm sorry, Tam, I left her for 1 second." Drinking wine, and Tamlin's like, "It's fine, go enjoy yourself, I'll look after her." And then he plays music for her, and she just dances, and it's literally like the most joyful scene of the whole book, where she just like lets herself let loose.
It's honestly one of the most wholesome scenes we get from Feyre.
It's great.
It's
I
just
just love
entire-
drunk Feyre.
I will die for drunk Feyre, okay?
Yeah.
I was more drunk Feyre, to be honest.
Yeah. I just the
So
fact that he was like, "Don't drink that," and she was like, "Don't tell me what to do."
She goes, "Big check." And then immediately it's just hit, and I'm like, "This is fantastic." This is
so
also
cute.
another thing I forgot about. And when it happened, I think I even went back and replayed it because I was dying. I was listening to the scene in my car, and I was crying from laughter. Like, it's so funny. It's so funny. Oh my god, I want to reread the scene. What page is it on, Hannah?
224 is when it starts.
I'm just gonna dog here.
And then, of course, because Feyre and Tamlin, like Tamlin's now watching after her, and he takes her off to the side and shows her this meadow with will-o'-the-wisps. You can just picture it. it's such a very fairy thing, like so enchanting, so magical, so whimsical, and I'm just like, Feyre deserves this. She's
Yes.
had a rough life. She's had to fight for everything she's ever gotten in life. She deserves this like moment of joy.
Yes.
And I just love it. I love that scene.
That was when I
Um
think also like Farrah she was comfortable. Like she
yeah,
was scared. She wasn't fearing for her life. She wasn't worried. She was comfortable and genuinely having such a good time. And I'm like, I love this Farrah.
yeah.
It was
This is
so
also the scene where Feyre and Tamlin kiss for the
yes.
first time because he's looking at her and she's like, "What?" He says, I'm thinking I might kiss you," and she says, "Then do it." I blush at my own boldness, but Tamlin only gave that breathy laugh and leaned in, and so they kiss.
I like
Um,
that scene.
so that scene is cute.
I like that scene. Not even gonna lie. I did get a little
Almost immediately after that, though, it's a couple pages later, Lucian is telling Tamlin about this massacre of these children from a different court because of the blight, which we now know as Amarantha, but Feyre doesn't at the time. And then this is when Rhys comes again. So he comes to the manor and they hide her because they don't want him to see her and report it back. And Rhys holds Feyre in, like, holds her mind and could shatter her with a thought. Like, it's kind of a scary scene because,
terrible.
like, Tamlin is nervous, Lucian is nervous, and you're like, those are the guys that are supposed to protect this, like, fragile human girl, and they've got nothing against Rhysand. Like, he just is, he's got her in his grip.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead. You can read the comments.
Sorry. His after during that scene, kissing of his hand was great. Yes. Yes, it was. It was a great scene. Yes, it was. Drunken acts like she's on speed. Yes,
Yeah.
that's pretty accurate. That's accurate. That scene was so much fun. It really was. It's honestly
I love that scene.
probably my favorite scene of the entire book. Like it's just pure wholesomeness. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Lucian's backstory is so sad. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if I wrote that in my notes to talk about, but yeah, Lucian's backstory where his like lover was murdered right in front of him because his father didn't want him to be with a common woman.
Yeah.
Which just shows like the brutality of certain courts. And what Lucian went through and like why, because he's the son of a high lord.
Yes.
And why is he with a different high lord then? But that kind of shows like that was the last straw for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have that scene with Rhys, and Rhys makes Tamlin and Lucian get on their hands and knees and beg him to leave Feyre alone, and they do. And so Feyre's terrified of him. So we have that scene. So then, of course, again, that's still like reminding us that there's something bigger going on here than this love story. And that scene terrifies Tamlin enough that he sends Feyre home. Like he's like, I don't want you here. I care about you too much. I don't want anything to happen to you. And this just shows that I can't really protect you like I want to. And so he sends her back to the human lands. And there's this glamour on her family so that they didn't know like all the stuff that happened to her. They think that she went with some rich aunt. But then we see Nesta was never affected by this
She knew.
glamour. So she immediately said, "Your beast's little trick didn't work on me. Apparently, an iron will is all it takes to keep a glamour from digging in. So I had to watch as Father and Elaine went from sobbing hysterics into nothing. I had to listen to them talk about how lucky it was for you to be taken to some made-up aunt's house, how some winter wind had shattered our door, and I thought I'd gone mad. But every time I did, I would look at the painted part of the table, then at the claw marks farther down, and know that it wasn't in my head." And it's just like, imagine being in Nesta's like brain at that point where she's like, what the hell just happened? My youngest sister was just taken away by this beast. And like her father and her sister are all crying and like in hysterics about it, and then all of a sudden, just like that, they're just like, "Oh, how lucky Feyre got taken by this ant." And Nesta's like, "What are you talking about?"
That's so weird how like Nesta just wasn't affected by it, but like that just shows that Nesta's too stubborn.
She's such a queen. Yeah.
Nesta is just
Literally,
different.
that's my note right there, is Nesta, my queen.
Yes, love it. I
She's
love
just like so strong-willed, and like from what you know of her character at
Yeah.
this point already, you're like, of course she wouldn't be affected by it. You think
Yeah,
she's gonna let that happen?
of course. Duh.
Yeah. So, and then Feyre finds out that Nesta actually came to try to find her.
Yes.
So that's another thing where it's like everybody hates on Nesta and says how like she doesn't care and how she should be taken care of, but like she tried. She
She
tried
did.
to save her when nobody else did. Like
Yeah, she
she went
did.
and looked for her. If she didn't care, she wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, here I agree with this comment.
So
Yeah, it was good to
yeah,
see them starting to come closer together and opening up to each other. I agree.
yeah.
You definitely saw like that side of Nesta that you kind of like didn't really get to see at all in the beginning. And I love that side of Nesta.
Yeah. So this is where shit is about to hit the fan, right? So Nesta is like telling her all this stuff about how Feyre knows like she would have fought for her High Lord, she calls him. And Feyre's like, yeah, I have this like weird feeling. I just feel like I need to go back into Prithian and find Tamlin. I don't feel like right about this. I want to go back and find him. And so she does, and finds the manor house like ripped to shreds. Nobody's there. It's just been destroyed. And she finds Alice, who tells her all about Amarantha and the curse. So we learn everything that we've been hinted at for the
Yeah.
majority of the book about what's going on. So Amarantha has taken over. She's High Queen of the land. She's holding everybody captive. Tamlin especially, because she wants Tamlin to be hers, and he doesn't want that. But she's like, "No, you're gonna be sitting right next to me. Like, I'm gonna make it happen." And all Feyre had to do was say "I love you" to Tamlin and mean it. And the whole thing could have been avoided. That would have been the end of the book. So there it is. But yeah, so she missed that. The curse, you know, they had 49 years, 7 and 7 years, I think they say.
Mhm.
And that time was up. And that's like the whole reason why Tamlin sent his soldiers across the wall, because they needed a girl with hate in her heart towards fairies to kill a fairy, to come to his land, to fall in love with him, and like all this stuff. And it's just one of those situations where it's like, this is why fate plays such a
Yeah.
role in these books, because like, what are the chances that on the 49th year, like right as time is about to go up, that's when this human girl kills a fairy with hate in her heart and goes there, falls in love, and it's just like,
The whole thing
yeah,
pieces
the whole
together.
thing is set in motion. So once Feyre finds out about the curse, she goes under the mountain and is taken before Amarantha and says, "I've come to claim the one I love." And they strike up this bargain. So Amarantha says, "I'll make you a deal here. You have to complete 3 tasks. If you can survive those 3 tasks, then I'll set you free. I'll set everyone free. Or you could solve this one riddle. And if you can do that, I'll instantly set you free." And Feyre agrees. They make this deal. Feyre gets the absolute shit kicked out of her.
Yeah.
And the trials start. So we get, I'm trying to find it here. We get the riddle eventually,
Oh.
which here is on page 313. So the riddle is, there are those who seek me a lifetime, but never we meet, and those I kiss, but who trample me beneath ungrateful feet. At times I seem to favor the clever and the fair, but I bless all those who are brave enough to dare. By large, my ministrations are soft-handed and sweet, but scorned, I become a difficult beast to defeat. For though each of my strikes lands a powerful blow, when I kill, I do it slow. Did you solve that riddle when it was read?
No.
Like the first time it's on page? I didn't. I see people that are like, that was so easy, like what an easy riddle. And I was like, bitch, I didn't know what the answer was until it was said on page. Like the whole time I'm like, what could it be?
I would have never gotten it.
I never would have got it. Now that I know the answer, I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
It's obvious, yes.
Yeah. But like when it was read, I was like, I don't know.
No.
And I see so many people that are like, that riddle, she could have solved it right there. It was so easy. And I was like, I did not think it was easy.
I didn't think it was easy either. I remember rereading it. Not this time around, but my first and second time reading it. I was like, I reread it and still couldn't grasp like an understanding of the riddle, let alone the answer to the riddle.
Yeah. I didn't know, like literally until Feyre says it, like at the very, very end when she says the answer, I'm like, oh, I never got it.
No, would have never.
So if you got it in the comments, 10 points for you, gold star. You're above and beyond. Like, yeah. So okay, so then we get the tasks, right? The first task is the Midgard worm, which is probably the most intense of the tasks.
I agree.
Because she literally has this freaking 40-foot giant worm trying to eat her alive. And she has to find a way out of that, like with nothing. She's literally just pushed into this trial with nothing on her but the clothes on her back. And I love how smart she is in there. Like she sets the trap for the Midgard worm. She watches the fairies that are watching her so that she can know where the worm is.
As if she was trained for it.
Right.
Like she goes into it without a doubt in her mind.
Yeah. And it's such an intense scene that I'm like, we're not spending a ton of time on it, but it's so intense. Like her, like being like, where is it? Like, am I going to get eaten alive? Her running for her life. But she eventually sets this trap for it and kills it, defeats the worm, finishes the task, and then Amarantha says like, well, I suppose anyone could have done that. And Feyre's like, all right, bitch, and just launches this like bone shard right at her. And I'm like,
love her.
Love that part because it just shows like Feyre is not ready to give up.
No.
She like just did this impossible task yet again. And when Amarantha's like, well, anyone could have done that, Feyre's like, all right, just launches this freaking javelin bone at her. I love that part. I have the reading portal page overlays, and there's her throwing the bone shard at Amarantha.
Oh my god. Oh my god, I want them.
So there's also, this was the moment, this is the chapter when we meet Rhysand.
Oh, Rhys.
And there's the one of, let me find it. The one of them at the Glen. So there's Feyre and Tamlin.
Oh my god, they're stunning.
At the Glen. And then there's one at the very beginning too that's of the wolf in the woods.
God.
So they're pretty cool. But yeah, the bone javelin thing, I just love that scene so much. Or that part. Like that, I mean, that scene is freaking intense, but just the fact that Feyre's like throws it at her and gets Amarantha covered in this nasty ass mud.
Yes.
So yeah, so during that trial, she gets really, really hurt. Like a bone is sticking out of her arm and she's got a fever. She's like on the brink of death, honestly. And Rhys comes to make this bargain with her and she's like, get the hell out, like You
Yeah.
think I'm gonna trust you? Like, you're working for Amarantha. You made Tamlin get on his hands and knees. You held my mind in your hands. And she's like, no, get out. And he's like, you don't have a lot of options here, girly
Yeah.
pop. Like, you need to take this bargain and let me help you here, or die. Like, those are your options, really. Like, you could fingers crossed that maybe Lucian can come and help you, but so of course, like she has to. She
Yeah.
can't not at this point. And so they make the bargain that Pharaoh will spend 1 week a month with him in his court, in exchange for him healing her arm and like fixing her up. And she gets the tattoo on her arm from that because it's customary that um, bargains are like made with ink, it's customary in that court. And then we have Rhys painting Feyre up to match that tattoo and then dressing her in this like flimsy little dress and bringing her to this like banquet hall. I don't know what you want to call it, like in the throne room where all the people are and all the music is, and like makes her dance
Kind
for
of like a
him.
ballroom, I guess.
The what?
Like a ballroom?
Yeah, kind of like a ballroom. Um so yeah, that's then he makes her drink like this wine that's not quite like the fairy wine that from
Yeah.
the fun happy scene, but it's like kind of just erases her memories. Like it's like an instant blackout
Yeah.
basically. Like she has no recollection of what happened then. And then Lucian kind of tells her like, yeah, he made you dance for him. The ink is only smeared on her side so she knows like where she was touched. So that helps her a little bit to be like, okay, I know that I was only touched here, but like she can't remember anything. So like that's fucking scary.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, then we get the second task, which is another riddle, which Feyre can't read. We haven't talked about that yet, but she
Yeah.
can't read. She can read a little bit, like she can make out some words, but
It
she
takes her a
couldn't like,
while.
yeah, it takes her a while to work through it. And like, there's the pressure of this ceiling with spikes coming down to kill Lucian and kill her if she doesn't solve it. And that is another scene where Rhys helps her. So it's interesting too because he bet on her against the Midgard worm. Like he was the only one that said Feyre's gonna win this. Everyone else was like, that worm is gonna obliterate her. And so he's like taunting her and saying like, you won me a lot of money so thanks for that. Thanks for surviving that. And then in task 2, she is like going to reach for a lever and she feels pain and like the tattoo has an eye on her palm and it like glares at her, and so she's like, okay. So she reaches for the other one and it's like, nope, not that one. And then she reaches for one and the eye is like and so she looks up at Rhys and he just doesn't show anything, but you know that that's what it's from.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see that he's like being a bit of a double agent here. Like he's playing the game to survive, but he also like wants to help them escape.
Yeah, like he actually has some form of sympathy.
Yeah, he's tricky to trust.
Yeah.
Because he's got to play the game because he is close with Amarantha. And so like if she catches wind of this, like she'll take him out. But yeah, there's the scene where Feyre says like, what do you want with me beyond taunting Tamlin? And he says, taunting him is my greatest pleasure. And she says, you saved my life. And he goes, and through your life I saved Tamlin's. And she says, why? And then he goes, that, Feyre, is the real question, isn't it? And we're all like, that is the real question. Why? Tell me why. And like there's this scene where he helps like one of the people from the summer court. In like, I mean, he ends up killing the guy. So, but like he helps him in a way that wouldn't be seen as merciful to Amarantha because she's like, oh, shatter his mind and he just like kills him, and she gets all upset about that, and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know what you meant." Like, but you
Yeah.
could tell he was
Mhm.
helping there. So it's one of those. It's like, do you trust him, or is he just doing this because he's bored?
Yeah, like, it's so hard to pin Rhys. It's really hard to pin him. Like, you don't really know. You kinda get confused, honestly. You're like,
Yeah,
"Wait, what's happening?" Like, you don't really know if you can trust him
yeah.
or if he's just playing a game.
There's this scene also where he comes and is kind of like taunting her a little bit when she's in her cell, and he's like, well, he helps her kind of too. Like, she finishes that second task and she like really feels this sense of hopelessness because she wouldn't have been able to complete it without
Mhm.
help. And she's like, there's no way I'm surviving the last task. Like, this is gonna be
Yeah.
it. And he helps her through it and like can speak into her mind and says, like, don't let her see you cry. Put your hands at your side, stand up, stare at her, walk out of the room. Like, he's like helping her through it.
Like he's
And then he
coaching.
comes in and is like, "Are you still crying about this? Like, what are you doing?" And ends up like licking away her tears. And like she gets so pissed about that. She's like, "You're disgusting." And she calls him a disgusting bastard. And he's like, "Well, all right, see you at the next task." And then the very end of that chapter is her saying, "It took me a long while to realize that Rhysand, whether he knew it or not, had effectively kept me from shattering completely." Because she's like really feeling the helplessness
Yeah.
from it.
And she's alone.
Yeah,
Like, so she has nothing to do other than think about everything that's happening over and over
over
again,
and over and over.
which takes a toll.
Yeah. Um, yeah, she says the thing about how you didn't have to bargain with me. You could have asked me for every single week of the year and I would have said yes. And he says, "I know." So it's like he's,
Yeah.
he's not as evil as he comes off, at least
Yeah.
not with Feyre. Um, and
Yeah,
then we get the final
sorry.
task.
Yes. But it's like with Feyre, he's different with Feyre than he is with everyone else.
Yeah,
Like,
especially like with Tamlin and Lucian, like,
yeah. Like he doesn't really he's his own person with them. But then
yeah,
with Feyre, he's sympathetic. He's kind of nice. He's kind of funny.
yeah,
And it's like you see more of Reese sometimes when he's with Feyre. So it's weird.
interesting.
Very.
So the final task, um, probably the most brutal,
Yeah.
honestly. Like, I know the Midgard worm was like the most intense, but this one in itself, just the idea of this could break anyone. Um,
God. Just thinking about it gets me like all on my feels.
yeah.
God.
So actually, can you click on Tabitha's comment? Because I just put past that scene. So, um, the music scene under the mountain. It happens after the second task, like, right after that
Mhm.
moment where Rhys, like, licks away her tears. She's all alone in her cell, and all of a sudden she hears this, like, really hopeful music that, like, helps her through that, like, that headspace that she was in.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, if you go on Spotify, there is a song called "Music from Under the Mountain" by Kelsey Woods that this person has composed what that would sound like. It's so beautiful. So if you haven't listened to that song, you need to listen to it. It's incredible. Like, it's violin. It's amazing. Yeah, it's called "Music Under the Mountain" by Kelsey Woods. It's incredible. So yeah, I just wanted to say that because there is somebody made music for that.
I
Um,
didn't know that. I have to listen to it.
yeah, you have to listen to it. When after this live show ends, you're gonna listen to it because I
You're
want to see
saying.
your reaction to it. But yeah, so the third task, she has to
God.
stab the hearts of 3 innocent Fae, and it's like one by one, and then take the hood off of them, so she has to look them in the eye and stab them through the heart, killing these innocent people. and she's really like struggling with this. You can just see like the inner turmoil of her having to do this, and like, is it worth it to kill these three and save an entire continent of people that are enslaved right now? Like, but she's like, I'm damning myself by doing this. Like, I'll never like recover from this. And it's just tough to read that scene, but she kills the first guy, um, and he's like begging her not to. It's difficult to read. And then the second one, this woman says that prayer that like, mother hold me or mother keep me or whatever it is. Um, and Feyre kills her as well, but like that woman, like, although obviously doesn't want to die, but kind of like accepts her fate here and is like, I'm ready to be sacrificed in order to save the greater good, the greater good. And then the last one is Tamlin. And Pharaoh's like, you're joking. Like, this is not fair. Like, I've gone through all of this to save Tamlin, and my last task is to kill Tamlin. And Feyre like straight up says not fair. And then she says like how brilliant it is of Amarantha. I want to find that wording of it, but basically how.
Hold on, I think I might be able to help you.
I want to find it. It's got to be like right around page 394 somewhere. She says something just basically about how brilliant and cruel it is. I can't find it. She says how it's like brilliant, because like, of course this evil queen is gonna make you do this terrible thing because like she doesn't want you to win.
Mm-hmm.
And then Feyre starts thinking through things as she's panicking basically, and realizes she's heard several times how Tamlin has a heart of stone, and how there's no way Amarantha would risk her killing Tamlin, because that's what Amarantha wants most in the world, is she wants Tamlin for her own. And so Pharaoh's like, gotta help him right. I'm trusting in all of this, and stabs him in the heart. And she was right. He can't be stabbed in the heart. He's got a heart of stone. So she survives the third task. And then Amarantha is like, you thought that I was going to let you go right away. I can let you go whenever I want. You never specified. It was only for the riddle that I said I would instantly let you go. And so she's like, you know what? Just for that, I'm killing you. And so she starts like killing Feyre, basically, like with her powers. She's breaking Feyre and saying like, tell him you don't love him, tell him about your fickle heart and all this stuff. And then Feyre, as she's literally being killed, Rhys comes to try to kill Amarantha. And so Amarantha's like, you are a traitorous piece of filth, and like, you had this plan all along. Like, I knew I never should have trusted you, blah, blah, blah. And so she like kind of takes out Rhysand and has him down. And then as Feyre's literally about to die, she says the answer to the riddle is love. And so then all magic is unleashed. Everybody's free again. And Tamlin is able to go after Amarantha, but not before Amarantha breaks Feyre's neck and kills her. So we get this scene too where Feyre, because we're in her point of view the whole entire book. We never go to a different point of view. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, if she's dead, what do? Feyre is no longer in her body. She's looking out through Rhys's eyes, holding on to that bond, that bargain, and watches basically as Tamlin freaking rips Amarantha to shreds.
Literally.
So that whole scene, just I feel like the killing of the innocent Fae, and finishing the final task, Amarantha trying to kill Feyre, Feyre dying, but then solving the riddle right before that.
It's
and then, like magic is unleashed. Like it is such an intense, like climactic ending.
It's so genius.
Yeah.
Like you have to give Sarah J. Maas props where props are due. Like it's so genius that it's just like literally within like it's like what, probably the last 30, 50 pages.
Yeah.
You can't stop. Like you can't put the book down at this point. Even after I have already read this and I knew what was going to happen and what was happening, I still like I can't imagine you
It's
putting
so
them
intense.
down. And it's fast. Like it
Yeah.
just keeps going and you can't stop. And it's such an intense, fast-paced scene. Ugh, it's so good. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's
so Amarantha, deadsies,
Mhm.
right? She gets what's coming to her.
Yep.
And then Tamlin comes back to Feyre's body. Feyre is still able to watch through Rhys's eyes what's happening. Like she can see her dead body. And then all of the High Lords give this little like kernel of light to Feyre
Mhm.
and bring her back to life as a High Fae.
Wild.
So I just remember the first time reading this, I'm like, she's human. He's not. He's immortal, basically.
Mhm.
Like, how is that gonna work? Like, what's the end game here? But I never saw this happening. Like, I wouldn't have
Yeah.
predicted that she would have died and then brought back to life as High Fae.
I would have thought it would have been kind of like a Twilight type situation.
Yeah.
Like that's what I kind of imagined it as. But this makes it so much more interesting.
Yeah.
It was a great
So,
scene also, like great written scene also, like seeing all of them. And mind you, like these High Lords, a lot of them, kind of dickheads.
yeah. I mean,
And
like, the High Lord of the Autumn Court, right? Lucian's dad,
yeah.
who killed his son's lover because she wasn't nobility.
Mhm.
Like, that's how brutal that guy is. He was the first one to step up
That's
and give that kernel of light. So it's like,
you
that's
see
crazy.
you see the respect that these High Lords have for her after everything that she just did for them.
Right.
Like she did this for Faye, and she's human.
Yeah.
And she legitimately hated these beings with every ounce of her soul.
Yeah.
And look at everything she just did.
Yeah.
That's just respect. And then
It's just crazy.
I love it so much.
And like her whole body has changed now. She's got like longer legs, she's got the pointy ears, she's just like so much more graceful. And then of course, like she has now this immortal life ahead of her, and she's dealing with the aftermath of all of the trauma she's just endured. She's dealing with the guilt of killing those innocent Fae. And like all the 3 months she was in under the mountain for 3 months, being held captive, being beaten and used and taken advantage of, and all this.
You don't realize how long it is also.
Yeah, because like
You
it
don't
goes
realize
by
how long
quick
she's
once we
under
get under the mountain. It's quick.
Yeah. You also
Um,
don't realize like how long it actually is that she is under the mountain.
yeah.
Because it all goes by so
Yeah,
fast.
that's what I'm saying. Like we're reading it and it's going by quick, but for
Like,
her,
yeah,
it's 3 months of
yeah. That's so
constant
wild.
torture.
And it's also a good chunk of the book that I didn't realize. Like a good, like probably half of the last half about is like the trials.
Yeah.
So like it makes sense that it was like long and that it was 3 months. But like I remember the first time I read it, it was like, whoa, that was 3 months of her life. Which makes sense as to like everything that happened, but you just don't see it because you can't like it's like this.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So that's pretty much where we leave off, right?
Yeah.
So we finish the final task. Feyre gets brought back to life. Amarantha is dead, and people are just kind of like regrouping. Um, Feyre goes. She gets this like tug out to Rhys through that like bond through that bargain, and she's like, what do you want? And he's like, just to say goodbye. So he's kind of like almost in a daze, like he's been under the mountain like for that 49 years. Like for 50 years, those people that were under there were held captive. Like Tamlin and Lucien and the Spring Court were able to be out and about and like doing their own things, but the rest of those people were not. They were under Amarantha's reign, under the mountain that whole time. So he's like kind of shell shocked by it. And she's like, well, it's not goodbye forever because you get me for a week every month for the rest of my life. And he's like, yeah, how could I forget? So they have this moment. And then when Rhys says like, well, goodbye for now, he looks at her and it says his eyes locked on mine, wide and wild, and his nostrils flared. Shock, pure shock, flashed across his features at whatever he saw in my face. And he stumbled back a step, actually stumbled. And she's like, what is it? And he just disappears. And that's it. That's the last we see of him. And the next page is literally like Feyre and Tamlin going back to the Spring Court. And that's the end of the book. So that's that.
That's that.
Yeah. So
this book is so good.
What a start to the series. What a kickoff.
This book is so good, y'all. Okay, we talked about this book for an hour and a half.
I didn't think we were going to. I had literally 2 pages, one page, 1.5 pages of notes. Yeah. Well, all the other live shows that we've done, I've had like 4, 5, 6 pages of notes. But like, I don't know. I just feel like I could talk about this world and the characters and the story forever.
Just wait till we get to ACOMAF, y'all, because we're not going to shut up.
That live show is going to be like 4 hours long, I swear.
That live show is going to be so long.
Yeah.
I'm going to be ready.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. I cannot wait for that live show. I want to reread this already. Is that bad?
No, I love it.
I love how much I love these books, and I cannot wait for ACOMAF. Oh my god, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. So that will be over on my channel. Christina and we haven't talked about like a date, but if we're still sticking with the 2 weeks a book, that first weekend of October is looking like maybe where it would be the 1st and 2nd.
We'll see. That's my birthday weekend. I don't know if I have any plans.
That is your birthday weekend. Yep. September 30th, for those of you that don't know and want to spoil Christina, September 30th is her birthday. Her wish list is linked down below.
Stop it. No. Stop it.
So maybe the weekend after that. Maybe we'll do 3 weeks.
We'll see. I mean, I have no life. I don't have any plans at all.
This is your life.
Literally, talking about ACOMAF is a birthday present itself. So we might still make it like the 1st or the 2nd. So I might just make it the 2nd because I do have a 3-day weekend. I have my birthday. I took my birthday off since it falls on a Friday this year. So we might just make it the 2nd, probably on Sunday instead of Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, we'll let you know. So
yeah, we'll see.
We'll put it in our Discord and our Instagrams, on our community feeds. You'll know.
Yeah,
you'll know. It. But it's coming. So
I'm so excited.
Any final thoughts, comments, anything else about A Court of Thorns and Roses that we want to say?
You know what? I do want to, for the people reading this book for the first time, what are your thoughts about Rhys? I want to know how you guys feel. I remember just...
Do you trust him? Do you not? Do you like him? Do you not?
How do you feel toward him? Because I don't really know. But yes, look, oh my god, this comment. OMG, I can't wait for the ACOMAF live show. I'm so excited. Like, so excited for the ACOMAF live show. It's gonna be so fun. Thanks so much. This was so fun. Oh,
thanks for coming.
I'm just so happy that people genuinely come here. Like, I remember when Hannah and I started this, Hannah and I were like, even if no one shows up.
If no one shows up, we'll just talk to ourselves. and have the time of our lives. Like,
Which we have. Like, we literally, like, we just have the time of our lives. And this is so fun. The fact that even,
it's
like,
so fun.
the fact that people are reading these books for the first time because of this read along is also kind of
Yes.
crazy.
It's
And that
insane.
is just so heartwarming to us so much.
Yeah. Makes my life.
I have mixed feelings for him. Yeah, I think we all do.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Very fair.
He's
Very,
just
very
very
fair.
complex. Like,
He's just he's a character.
he is something.
He's something. That's definitely it. He's something. All right, y'all. I think we're gonna go ahead and end the live show here. We will keep you guys updated with everything for Akamath. Stay tuned. We might do some reading sprints. We haven't done those in a while, so maybe we will do some for Akamath because it's Hannah and I's favorite book of all time. So, like, you guys seeing us read Akamath is going to be pure entertainment for y'all.
This
So
will be my 12th time reading Akamath.
I cannot wait.
And I know I'm still gonna cry reading it.
I can't wait to read it. I remember when I started my reread, I had already cried, I think 3 times. And I only got, like, I think halfway through.
It's so
So
good.
I'm so excited to just, like, actually reread it thoroughly because, like, I mean, I only read this book in 2020. And for some reason, that surprises a lot of people. But yeah, I read this book in 2020. So, like, it's just I can't wait to reread it and really dive into it. Ugh, I'm so excited. I can't wait. Okay, y'all, like, just
It's so
stay
good.
tuned, okay? Stay tuned to our Instagram also. I'm going to definitely have a bunch of content when reading Akamath. So stay tuned for that also because rereading Akamath is going to be my entire enjoyment of life. So I hope everyone has a beautiful Saturday. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And I hope you have a fun Saturday. I never know how to end these things,
I
but
know.
thank you guys so
Thanks for joining us.